Good morning or good afternoon, depending where in the world you're joining this presentation from. Wherever you happen to be, I'm very grateful to you for joining me for this presentation on benchmarking, a secret weapon to drive business creativity and innovation. My name is Modena. I would like to start by firstly thanking the Philippine Society for Quality and the Global Benchmark Network for inviting me to speak at this second World Innovation and Benchmarking Summit. It's much appreciated, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Okay, so just a very brief introduction to myself. I work for a organization called Winning Moves, and we specialize in providing benchmarking services, having been involved in this area since 1998. Personally, I've been involved for most of that time, and I am an unashamed fan, exponent, and so on of benchmarking and the value it can have. So hope to share some interesting stuff today. Also some useful things, just hopefully some tips and techniques and some tools that you can use straight away. But mostly, the most important thing is that keen for you to get value for the time invested watching this presentation today. So hopefully it will be useful and enjoyable. Winning Moves, we as an organization provide three main areas of service. We provide consulting in the area of research and evaluation, particularly around areas such as sustainability and business support. We also do support businesses, mostly small and medium-sized enterprises directly, and have specialized in recent years in digital transformation, although we do still provide support in other areas such as innovation, productivity, creativity, and so on. Lastly, we have a software arm which includes a suite of benchmarking and diagnostic products, which are used all around the world. Just to prove the point, I'm not sure if all the countries are on here, but these are all of the countries that where our benchmarking software has been used over the past just over 20 years. I think it's about 46, but as I say, I'm not sure if they're all there. So, but it just gives a flavour of the flexibility and how it's been used in a variety of different sectors for different settings: supply chain development, innovation, productivity, and so on, and how flexible it is that it's able, as a method and resource, is able to be used so widely. And again, just emphasizing that flexibility. It's been used in a huge variety of different themed areas, but also lots of industries over the years as well. I won't read them all out, but you can see some of the examples there. And again, just by way of introduction, these are some of the clients that we are privileged to work with. A few familiar ones there. Obviously, the Global Benchmarking Network. We developed a sustainability benchmarking tool, and GBN members such as Fraunhofer. We've been proud to work with them for over 20 years. Various other organisations there in the UK and overseas. So that's as much. I just wanted to give a brief introduction so you have an idea who we are. So getting into the presentation content for today, the areas we're looking to cover is firstly a brief introduction to benchmarking. I guess a lot of you will be very familiar on the topic, but we just wanted to give you our take on that. Then to give some context to how we use benchmarking, or one of the ways we use benchmarking, I want to introduce you to the idea of the here to there simple model to help plan for strategically plan for the future. Then we have some innovation and creativity tools that are hopefully are straightforward but very powerful. You can use immediately in your own businesses. Very keen to stimulate some thoughts and just give you some new ideas and approaches that you may consider today. Also to explain how you may benefit from using benchmarking, particularly around innovation and creativity, but also other areas. I've also just thrown in some innovation benchmark measures that we use as part of our overall assessment of organizational performance and practice. Okay, so I guess I just want to kick off with, mention what does the term benchmarking mean to you? I suspect it means different things for different people, and based on your previous experience and how you've used benchmarking in the past, will have a real influence on that. And there's lots of answers to that that question. But one of the sort of, one of the main descriptions that tends to come back is that it's about making comparisons. And it can be comparisons with a wide variety of things. It could be with quality standards. So how is your organization stacking up against a particular standard that's required? It could be comparing with competitors and peers to see how you're performing in comparison with them, giving some context to understand where you are in the marketplace. It's also, benchmarking can be used to compare, how we're doing with against our customers' expectations. Of course, customer demands are ever higher as time goes on, and it's important to keep up to speed with how well we're providing the customer experience and how we're performing in that area. It's also important to understand our own expectations. Most of us as organizations go through planning at least once a year, where we develop a plan of what we're looking to achieve. And of course, then the comparison over time helps us then to understand how we're performing against our original expectations for that period. And there's lots and lots of other areas as well. And it is, really an area, an activity we undertake as an everyday everyday thing we do in our lives. So, having said that, how do we benchmark ourselves in every day of our lives, or in our everyday lives? If you think about, there's so many different examples, particularly these days with the advent of the internet. You have things like comparison to if you're looking to buy something, you can compare different products very easily, but you can also compare different prices. It's almost brought about more of a perfect competition in some ways, that you can really scale the market, both in your own country, but also overseas as well. And so, for example, if we were buying a motor vehicle, there's a whole range of benchmarks we might undertake. How fast does it go? What is the fuel economy? The level of comfort? And some of the softer, we might benchmark some of the softer aspects, like the level of the brand, and various other things like color and paint work and the extras we get and so on. So there's a whole range of benchmarks that we just do very naturally. I've just thrown in this example as well, just to give just to bring this to life. So this is intended to be a professional cyclist who's just completed a training run, actually cycle, I guess. And it's taken them 2 hours, 34 minutes and 46 seconds. And my question to you would be, how good is that? And clearly, if they've done a mile, then that's not very good. If they've done 100 miles, it's probably somewhere close to superhuman. So it's a simple example, but it just gives you an idea that you need some context, some additional information to know how well this cyclist is performing. That's the sort of context, if you like, to make that, to build that understanding. So if I throw in other information, such as the previous personal best time was 2 hours 45 minutes, you can see actually, yeah, they're making progress. But if their ambition is to, for example, qualify for the Olympics, then we would need things like the Olympic qualifying time. We find out that's 1 hour 55, for example, then we know there's a long way still to go to get to that level. You'd also want to know how the competitors are performing. So those that are also looking to qualify for the Olympics for the particular country. So you'd be looking to understand that as well. All the time we're building more comparisons, more information to show how competitive this cyclist is. We could then go even further and have a look at how likely they are to succeed. If they were to qualify for the Olympics, then we might be looking more widely to see who are the better competitors around the world. And if we want to know what the chances of getting a medal, we might then, as well as looking how other competitors are doing, you'll be looking at things like what was the winning time in previous Olympics? What was, what is the current world record? What's the European record, and so on. So without all of that information, we really don't have a clue how well this person is performing. But once you throw in this information, then you start to get a picture of how well they're doing. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. Again, another example, just use I hope this is big enough on your screens, but just gives an example of how benchmarking works within sport. And I've chosen the English Premier League tables for the 2 years in question. Was the last season on the right here, which was 2020 to 2021, and this is 2019 to 2020. And you can see that the ultimate benchmark for the football teams is the number of points they get, and of course that denotes their position. You can consider there's lots of other considerations, but that's ultimately what they're trying to achieve. And you can see here that Liverpool in the first season achieved 99 points, which is a huge number. But we can also look at things like, what is their win ratio, how many games they're drawing and losing, and so on, average goals per game scored and conceded. And then we could go further and start breaking it down to away form as well versus their home form. And then going beyond that, you think, well, okay, that's the performance. Well, what's actually helping them to achieve that those sort of levels? And that's where other benchmarks come into play, such as the training regime, how fit the players are, but also things like the transfer policy, what investment they have, do they make the most of match day revenues, et cetera, et cetera. So there's various other things that help them the drivers of performance, if you like, that will allow them to perform at the level they do. And the other thing to say here is benchmarking is normally taken at a point in time, so that this is after 38 games when the season is finished, and the league table on the right also has 38 games, and you can see that differences in performance. So whereas the winner needed 99 points the previous season, following season performance didn't need to be so high. They achieved a lesser number of 86 points. You can also see that Liverpool's point in time in this season was top, but they dropped to third in the following season with a massive 30 points less than they achieved in the previous season. Some teams do very similarly. You can see Arsenal finished 8th and 8th in both seasons, whereas others like other big movers like let's say Wolverhampton Wanderers, so there's a bit of a movement, 7th in one season, 13th in another. So you do see that, obviously you see that from season to season. A good example there, Sheffield United, 54 points in the previous season, down to just 23, and worst in the league and relegation. So as I say, these are just simple examples but just hopefully help to get across what benchmarking is about and how we use it on a day-to-day basis. And there's a number of lessons, things we can take from this. First one here, you can't compete in a vacuum. So it goes back to the cyclists we spoke about. Without knowing other information about how others are performing, what the level of the quality standards are, we can't hope to understand how well or not well that they're doing. There's also another, this is quite a well-known adage, you can only effectively manage what you measure. And it is a little bit hackneyed, but still remains true that, to really understand how you're doing, you really need to be able to put a measurement against it. Otherwise, there's a danger that it's sort of very subjective rather than an objective view of how your organization or other organizations are doing in a particular area. We use this definition of benchmarking being it's the practice of being humble enough to admit that someone else is better at something and wise enough to try and learn how to match or even surpass them at it. And the two things that I'd like just wanted to highlight there is, firstly, to admit that someone else. So it's being humble enough to be, to admit that others may be doing things better. And then the subsequent point is probably more important, is that we look to try and match or even surpass them. Benchmarking isn't about copying, it's about understanding how others are doing things and adapting it for your own circumstances. Because at the end, If you are just looking to copy others, then by the time you've got to their level of performance, they're likely to have moved on to higher levels. So it is very much about adapting, and it is that thing about learning and looking to surpass. So if you're using that as inspiration, if you like, to move the organization forward and to become the best. This area we think is really important. You don't need to adjust your screen. It is actually deliberately blurred, but this idea of vision, you might think, what has that got to do with benchmarking and helping to become more innovative and creative? So it's we think it's absolutely critical, because vision and what we see it as is a compelling view of the future that drives organizations forward. Having that as a clear view of the future is critical to provide some context to all the performance and practice areas that we're looking at. So it just gives you that context to make it meaningful, but also to develop plans for the future. This is an area we again, a saying we've often used. If you don't know where you're going, all roads lead there. So we're very good as human beings to retrospectively look at why we've reached a certain point and saying we always intended to be here, even if that's not exactly the case. What benchmarking and strategic planning and so on helps you to do is to make very definite plans about your direction of travel, rather than just being a hostage to fortune. The other part of this is, if you don't know where you are, a map won't help you. So the benchmarking is very much about that initial line in the sand, understanding how your organization is performing, or others are performing, so that you've got a start point to measure progress over time. Otherwise, if you don't know where you're starting from, it's hard to know, or impossible to know really, whether you're making good progress or not. So this is where this idea of here to there comes in. So, and goes back to this idea of vision. So here is very simple. That's where we are today. That's the start point of the planning process. You'll notice that the there circle is much bigger, much larger, and is intended to be the future vision. So it's very much about, is a bigger, brighter, more exciting place to be, and should almost draw the organization forward to achieve their future aspirations. So, as I said at the start, I wanted to just throw in a few tools and techniques you might wish to you might find useful to use in your own organisations. This is a very simple model we've been using for strategic planning with literally thousands of small and medium-sized enterprises over many years, and it looks like this. So you can see obviously there why it's called the strategic triangle. So it starts with vision, as I said before, and that's very much understanding where the organization wants to go, and it isn't necessarily all detail. It's about it's about being very compelling and clearly sort of stating what you're trying to achieve, what you stand for really. So it's your direction of travel really. Purpose then will vary from organization to organization. Why are you doing what you're doing? And that again, it could be, if it's a social enterprise, for example, it could be there's very altruistic reasons. If it's a commercial business, it may be, the core purpose might be profit, but it's never just profit. It's always about, you're always looking to, in terms of helping your people to grow and to satisfy your customers and so on. Having established those two, the next stage then is to work out some goals. So that's starting to put some numbers against what you're looking to achieve. And that could be, things like customer satisfaction, innovation, it could be profitability, it could be, it could be people satisfaction measures, it could be a whole range of things, but it's a very definite sort of view of what you're trying to achieve. Once you've done that, then the creative part is about values and strategy. So looking at how you're going to achieve your goals. So this is where you're looking at, this isn't business as usual. This is the additional and new stuff you're looking to do to achieve your business aspirations. And finally, it's the details. So to achieve all that, what actions are needed, who's going to do what and where and by when. And the aim of this model is that, having established that, then any actions that are undertaken in the business should all be moving the organization towards achieving its vision. But the vision continually is helping the organization to influence everything else that goes on. And the more it's bought into, the more the business becomes very focused, or organization becomes very focused about where it's trying to get to. So I hope that might be useful. Power of vision. I guess many of you would have come across this before, but we are at Winning Moves real exponents. We really do believe this is absolutely critical to get right as an essential ingredient of business success. So there's lots of good examples of vision. There's a few I wanted to share with you. So the first one here was this person actually who said they wanted to become more famous than Purcell. Now, hopefully you'll be familiar with Posh Spice from the Spice Girls. Now you might think that's perhaps a little bit over-ambitious, but nobody can accuse her of underselling herself, or can deny that she has generated great success in her career, and obviously marriage to David Beckham. Other examples I just found. So this was Google: organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. To have a worldwide reputation for awe-inspiring theatre from the heart of the UK. So that's one you may not have heard of. That's a local theatre. To fill the earth with light and warmth of hospitality by delivering exceptional experiences, every hotel, every guest, every time. That was the Hilton. To be the ultimate destination to experience local food and farming. Again, a local one, a farm near in the UK. Some of you may have heard of Alton Towers. It's a sort of fun fair theme park, I should say, and it exists to make Britain happy. So that's quite nice, succinct, but it really does get across the essence of what they're about. I guess you have your own views in terms of which one of those are better, good, and which ones aren't. I think some examples which are really just sort of ticking the box of having a vision. A few I've again found that I wanted to share with you. The Vancouver Island region will be internationally recognised as a preferred travel and getaway destination. Okay, factual, but perhaps not very inspiring. A leading sustainable island destination. That's Mauritius. And Mauritius is obviously a very appealing place to go, but not if you look at that vision. Dubai as the first choice for international leisure and business travel. Again, what does that really mean? It's not very inspiring and doesn't say a huge amount. Some of the better ones that found: leading the nation in tourism and motion picture production in Virginia. Offer our customers the best, most unforgettable travel experience of their lives. That's Mongolia. And actually, that really is, gets at the heart and but really gets across what they're trying to achieve. So I said I'll share a few tools and techniques that would help with innovation. So this first one is we call it the onion model, or core and surround, and it looks like this. And the way it works is the core of the model is your product or service. So it's the thing you sell. So if you sell cars, it's cars. If you sell windows, you're selling windows. If you make cakes, for example, that's your core offering. But of course, as we all know, people don't buy what you sell, they buy the things around it. So it isn't that core that they buy, it's the other elements that make it appealing. They look at quality. Is it consistent every time? Is it sort of, is it sort of presented to a high standard? What is the personality, the brand, and what does it say to them? Is it again, is it sort of high quality, or is it, is it unique? Is it differentiated from others? What products make up the core offering and what service? So what is the customer experience? And then further out, we then look at things like the image and the brand. So how do people view it? What are the people like who you interact with? What is the environment it's sold in? And what sort of response times do you get? And you can go further. You can add your own and what have you in terms of what are the most important distinctions that make your organization different. Because ultimately, we're looking to stand out from the crowd and be innovative. Because only one organization can be the cheapest. Now, I've found a short video I wanted to share with you about an organization called Sweetgreens, which I think it's entertaining, and I think it's entertaining, interesting, but it's also an organization that have really developed a very compelling vision, and it's really driven their success. So I hope you find it useful. I'm going to put it on now, so let me and then come back to this in a moment.
I remember standing there looking at this space. It was so small, but you could see it. You can just imagine this experience that you could create inside.
And when we saw that little tavern, we knew that was the right spot for it.
Looking back years later, we never would have imagined that we'd be part of this bigger community of farmers, of customers, of employees. When this all began, the goal was simple: to connect with people through food.
Sweetgreen was born when we were still students. The three of us really bonded over the fact that there was something missing in our daily lives. We had nowhere healthy to eat.
When we started Sweetgreen, nobody really believed that would work. We really had no idea what we were doing. We wanted to create something healthy that was fun.
And wouldn't it be cool if there was a place that fit our values?
We shared this passion for creating something, and we just decided to close our eyes and do it. We really focus on creating a farm-to-table experience and educating customers that their food's locally sourced.
In the early days, we started simply by just going straight to farmers markets and meeting farmers at their stands. Years later, some of those initial connections we made at the farmers market are some of our strongest partners.
For us, we really believe in making an impact in the communities where we opened. A big thing we've done this past couple years is a program called Sweetgreen in Schools, where we go into the public school system and educate 4th and 5th graders just on healthy eating. It's been a really exciting way to interact with the community, and we look forward to taking with us everywhere Sweetgreen goes.
It's a fruit bowl. This is delicious. Stay healthy.
When we opened our second store, not doing any business, bought a giant speaker, set up outside on the sidewalk, and something magical happened. It was no longer just a place to eat.
We did our first block party, and it was incredible.
The block party turned into a bigger block party, which turned into our first festival, which was maybe 500 people.
The next year, we found these incredible partners.
We had the opportunity to take a big gamble.
When you think about the Sweet Life Festival, it's really a party with a purpose.
Where we bring together 20,000 like-minded people to listen to amazing music while eating healthy food and giving back to a great cause.
We really see this as just the beginning. And as we grow, we can't wait to spread this idea of the sweet life and living well and bring this to new communities and build new partnerships.
We want people to think about eating healthy in a different way. That's easy, that's fun, that's approachable. We want to make sure that we create an impact in the community, with the customers, and with the farmer.
What really excites us, it's not just the food, it's not just the music. It's to create experiences where passion and purpose come together.
I hope you found that interesting and useful. I think it just emphasizes a number of things that mentioned earlier. The power of vision to start with, the ability to be different, to innovate in almost every aspect of how you do business, do things differently, but also they built a genuine following in terms of customer loyalty and what have you, beyond just going into a healthy food place and just buying salad. People really follow it, and in terms of customer loyalty and ability then to diversify, you've got a captive audience there. You will keep following you. Anyway, hopefully that was interesting and useful. So again, going back to how do you use benchmarking to innovate? So we think that the benchmarking is really useful for setting suitable goals, but there's a real danger of, and we see it time and again with organisations that we work with, is that the goals can be too limiting. Quite often they're created by looking in the rearview mirror. And by that, I mean looking at last year's performance and adding on a bit. So doing a bit more, 5–10% more, whether that's turnover or profit. What that doesn't do is look at the core organizational strengths. What are you capable of? And instead of just thinking, right, we'll do more of the same, because at some point, there's a real danger that won't be needed anymore. It's about saying, what can we do? And what, and instead of being self-limiting, actually sort of setting goals that are a little bit stretching, not impossible, but stretching that almost will mean that you've got to be creative, you've got to be innovative, because you won't achieve them by doing more of the same. You've got to do things differently to achieve them. And there's a real power with taking that approach. Yeah, and the greatest danger for all of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it, but it's too low and we reach it. And I think that's really true. There's a lot more opportunity to go much further and do much more. And ultimately, it's all about standing out from the crowd, isn't there? Because the last thing any of us want as organisations is to look the same as everybody else. We want to be different. We want to stand out, and that means you can charge those premium prices. You can build that customer loyalty, and that you're not competing on price. So again, thinking in terms of this from a benchmarking point of view. So as with anything, you can measure yourself to see how well you're doing against others. And we have innovation as a core part of our overall organizational assessments. We benchmark other areas like financial performance, growth, quality, people performance and satisfaction, and future investment and so on. But we also we see innovation, how innovative an organization is, as a very key part of that. And it sits within an overall balanced scorecard. A lot of the tools, the general business tools that we've developed. So it forces you to look at every aspect of the organization, because it's you can't just change the financials, but what you can do is change the learning and growth aspect. Developing your intellectual property, bringing new ideas to the party, which then drive processes that ultimately influence the customer experience, which finally should improve the financial position. So it forces it by taking that holistic view of the business. It gives you the opportunity to be innovative right across the board. The process we go through, we collect some fairly simple. We collect data. We validate it, so we make sure it's accurate. Then we run it against one of our benchmarking systems. We input the data, generate a report, do some analysis with the organization, and then agree a roadmap or action plan for improvement, and then go back around the loop. And you can do that for, as a generic organization activity, but you can focus very much on specific areas such as digital technology adoption or sustainability or innovation. So it really can sort of go into detail there. Some of the measures that we use, I just wanted to share just some examples which just might get you thinking for your own organization. So things like what level of export turnover is being achieved, what revenue is being generated from new products and services, what percentage of our offering is coming from new products and services. Things like online sales, are we generating online sales? How quickly the organization is able to get the product to market. And no one of those ratios will give you the whole story, but understanding them all and then going into looking behind that and possibly introducing other measures and ratios as well around innovation, and creativity and so on, can really help you to the benchmarking to understand how you're doing as an organization. The benefits of benchmarking, there's lots of them, just sharing a few here. The chance to look over the fence to learn from others. We said earlier, it's very much about adaptation rather than copying, but it really does give a context to understand performance, which then allows you to track your own and your competitive performance over time. So that line in the sand can help you to see how you're improving, but also how others are moving as well. It can give an unbiased view. So we're talking, we do have qualitative and quantitative benchmarking and diagnostic tools, but it just gives you that level of objectivity, hopefully to then provide new perspectives, creativity, and innovation. That's what it should drive, which then leads to, it can lead to better decisions, because you're basing your decisions on facts rather than than a subjective view. Great foundation for future business improvement and organizational development. Ultimately, certainly for commercial organizations, it is the customer experience is absolutely critical to success. Hopefully, it helps to embed a structured measurement culture and approach within the business. Going back to that adage about, you can only really properly manage what you can measure. And ultimately, and is proven used in the right way to improve things like profitability, productivity, drive growth, improve customer satisfaction, and increase operational efficiency. Okay, so I think we're coming to the end, towards the end of the presentation. I'm very happy to take questions afterwards. We have some interesting, hopefully interesting information on our website, benchmarkindex.com. So please feel free to have a look there. Relatively newly released, actually, so we'll be developing that further. It just leaves me to thank you for your kind attention and for attending the talk. I genuinely hope you found it very, very useful and at least a bit thought-provoking. You take away perhaps one or two things that you hadn't thought about previously. And there's just to finish there, my contact details. Very happy to receive contact for any questions or if anybody would like to connect with me. Okay, so actually I've been a bit premature there. Just put that back up. In fact, let's just go back one. Okay. And just finally, thanks once again to the Philippine Society for Quality and for the Global Benchmarking Network to invite me to present at this event. Thank you to them, and thank you to yourselves once again.